We all wake up with, the absolute best intentions.
Oh, absolutely.
We tell ourselves, like, today is the day I am finally going to eat healthy. Or today's the day I'm going to study for an uninterrupted hour.
Right, the classic morning promises.
Exactly. We say, today I will not spend 3 hours just mindlessly scrolling on my phone. We genuinely want to make good choices.
You really do.
But there is this incredible disconnect between the person we are at 7 in the morning when we make those promises and, the person we become at 7 in the evening when we break them.
Yeah.
So why is it so incredibly hard to actually follow through?
I mean, that disconnect is the ultimate human struggle, really. We set these grand, sweeping goals, but our daily, minute-by-minute actions, they just don't match up with our ambitions.
No, they really don't.
So welcome to everyone joining us for this deep dive. Today, we're exploring the fascinating world of human behavior, self-control, and the hidden neurological mechanisms that drive what we do every single day.
And we really want to keep the pace nice and relaxed today. Our mission is to uncover the specific mechanisms behind why we struggle with willpower, and more importantly, how we can stop fighting our own brains and actually use the science of habit formation to our advantage.
Exactly. And a really great place to start looking at this disconnect is the language we use to describe our own minds.
Oh, the language part is so interesting.
It is, because we naturally walk around thinking we are the absolute boss of our own brains.
We do. And you can see that illusion of control deeply embedded in our everyday language, right? Especially in our idioms.
Yes, the idioms of power.
I love this segment. When we feel powerful and organized, our language reflects this sense of total, deliberate command.
Right.
We talk about being the one to call the shots, as if we are a director on a movie set. Or we say we are in the driver's seat, navigating the road perfectly.
Like we have total control of the vehicle.
Exactly. Or we say that we hold the reins, literally steering the wild horse of our impulses.
And notice how all of those phrases, they imply a very calm, rational, and somewhat detached command over a situation. It's a very top-down view of the self.
But then reality hits.
Right.
Things go wrong, and the vocabulary completely shifts. We suddenly say a situation is getting out of hand, implying it has physically slipped from our grasp.
Yes.
Or we say we are losing the plot like a confused character in a story, or that we desperately need to get a grip on ourselves.
Getting a grip, right. It implies that our self-control is this physical object we can just hold on to, and sometimes it just slips through our fingers.
So why do we so predictably lose our grip on our own goals?
Well, I like to use the PRP method to explain this. That stands for point, reason, example, point. It's a great way to break down complex ideas.
Okay, let's hear the point.
The first point is that we consistently overestimate our own willpower. In behavioral psychology, this is known as restraint bias.
Restraint bias. Okay, so what is the reason behind that?
The reason is that we suffer from a physiological phenomenon called the hot-cold empathy gap.
Hot and cold.
Yeah. The human brain struggles immensely to predict its own future state. When you are calm, rational, and comfortable, you are in a cold state. Your logical brain literally cannot empathize with how your emotional, hot brain is going to feel when it is tired, hungry, or stressed.
I feel like I do this every single weekend. I plan an incredibly ambitious schedule of chores, convinced that my Sunday afternoon self will have the energy to do it all.
That's the empathy gap right there. So let's move to the example part of the PRAP method. Think about the classic mistake of grocery shopping on an empty stomach versus a full stomach.
Oh, I know this one too well.
Right. When you are rested and full, you are in a cold state. You confidently buy a giant bag of junk food thinking, oh, I will just have one handful a day as a weekend treat.
Because the logical brain is in charge.
Exactly. But when you are exhausted and starving after work, you are in a hot state. Your emotional brain takes over, your motivational hierarchy completely flips, and you eat the entire bag immediately. Another example is a famous study with smokers. Smokers in a calm, cold state severely underestimated their future cravings. Because they were so confident, they voluntarily placed themselves in highly tempting situations, like hanging out in smoking areas.
Let me guess, they couldn't handle it.
They failed at a much higher rate than people who actively avoided the temptation, which brings us to the final point of the PRP method.
Which is?
Believing you are immune to temptation and relying on sheer willpower is actually the surest way to fail. Your overconfidence is the trap.
Wait, really? So being highly confident in my own self-control is actually a bad thing?
It is a trap.
That is wild. It's like It's like a ship captain who is so incredibly proud of his new boat that he intentionally sails directly into a Category 5 hurricane.
That is a perfect analogy.
Just to prove to his crew that the ship is strong, instead of just doing the smart, boring thing, which is charting a course that sails around the storm entirely.
Exactly. The restraint bias forces us to sail right into the hurricane, convinced the storm won't be that bad. We rely on willpower, but willpower is not a magical force field.
What is it, then?
It's more like a battery. Every decision you make throughout the day causes micro tears in that willpower muscle. By the end of the day, the tank is just empty.
Well, let's trace how that battery actually drains in real life. I want to look at a typical busy day and see how this plays out.
Let's do it.
Because we often view these failures as deep moral flaws rather than just a depleted battery. So let's say the alarm rings at 6 on a freezing cold morning. My starting level of motivation is usually pretty high. I want to get up and be productive.
Right.
But the bed is incredibly warm, the room is freezing, and without even realizing I'm doing it, I hit the snooze button.
Okay, let's pause right there. That action of hitting the snooze button without conscious thought is what researchers call automaticity.
Automaticity.
Yes, but let's practice some vocabulary simplification here. For our listeners practicing English, we can replace that difficult word. Instead of automaticity, let's just say doing something without thinking.
I love that. Doing something without thinking, it makes it so much clearer.
It does. Your brain is trying to save energy by doing something without thinking.
Okay, so my brain is already trying to save energy at 6 in the morning. Fast forward a bit.
Yeah.
I eventually get up, and I had fully intended to do a quick workout. But I feel this lingering fatigue. My gym clothes are buried in the closet. Finding them feels like a massive chore, so I choose to just sit and relax on the couch instead.
Okay, so here you experienced high friction.
Friction.
Yes. And to simplify that, let's call friction a difficulty that slows you down.
A difficulty that slows you down.
Right.
Having to dig through a closet introduces a difficulty that slows you down. And since your battery is already draining, that slight difficulty is enough to derail the good intention.
Makes total sense. Then I finally get to work. I have that major project due. I want to take accountability for my work. And by accountability, we mean taking responsibility for your actions.
Yes, taking responsibility for my actions. And I want to hit a big milestone today.
Which is an important point of progress.
Exactly, an important point of progress.
Right.
But the office is noisy, my email notifications keep popping up, and I'm constantly checking my phone.
The distractions are endless.
By the time I leave work, my brain feels completely fried. I feel this intense urge to just pull into a fast food drive-thru and order a greasy burger, entirely abandoning the healthy meal I had planned to cook.
Your story perfectly maps the depletion of cognitive resources. By 5 in the evening, the difficulty of chopping vegetables feels insurmountable.
It really does.
So the habit of pulling into the drive-thru, which means doing something without thinking, takes over entirely. Your busy day was not derailed because you lack character.
That is a relief to hear.
It was derailed because you were relying on brute force willpower in a poorly designed system.
Well, if willpower is just a battery that inevitably drains, what is the alternative? How does the brain actually function when it isn't relying on willpower?
When willpower fails, the brain defaults to deeply ingrained neurological patterns. And we can summarize how this works using a simple 3-part method.
Okay, a 3-part method.
It is widely known as the habit loop. It all happens in a part of the brain called the basal ganglia.
So what is part 1 of this 3-part method?
Part 1 is the cue or the trigger. This is the environmental signal that kicks things off. It tells your brain to go into automatic mode.
Like a specific time or location.
Exactly. Or very often it is an emotional state, like feeling stressed or bored.
So like my alarm clock ringing or feeling overwhelmed by emails. That is the cue. What is part 2?
Part 2 is the routine. This is the actual mental, emotional, or physical behavior you perform.
So hitting the snooze button or eating the fast food.
Yes. And that routine leads to part 3, which is the reward. The reward is the benefit your brain gets. It might be a feeling of relief or a rush of sugar.
And I imagine the brain really likes that reward.
It loves it. The reward tells your basal ganglia, hey, this felt good. Remember this exact loop for the future. Cue, routine, reward.
Wow. Okay, so if my brain is wired this way, how do I possibly break a bad habit loop, like, say, snacking when I am stressed at work?
This is a great question, and it brings us to the golden rule of habit change. You cannot simply delete a bad habit.
You can't delete it.
No. Once that pathway is wired, it is there. Instead, You must keep the same cue and the same reward, but you have to replace the routine with a better alternative.
Wait, let me make sure I understand. So the stress from work, that is the cue, that stays the same.
Right.
And the need for a break or comfort, that is the reward, that also stays the same.
Exactly.
But instead of the routine being eating a candy bar, I insert a new routine.
Yeah.
Like walking around the building for 5 minutes.
Yes. You hijack the existing loop. You satisfy the brain's craving for a break, but through a constructive routine.
That is brilliant.
And changing just one small routine can cascade and change entirely unrelated behaviors. There's a legendary story about an executive named Paul O'Neill.
Oh, I think I know this one. He took over Alcoa, right?
Yes, a massive aluminum company. They were struggling, and investors wanted him to focus on cutting costs. But he shocked everyone by focusing entirely on one single routine: worker safety.
Wait, why safety? If they are losing money, why not focus on profits?
Because safety was a keystone habit. He made it the non-negotiable priority. If someone got hurt, managers had to report it within 24 hours with the plan to fix it.
Okay, so what did that actually do?
Well, to report injuries that fast, workers had to communicate better. To prevent injuries, they had to maintain machines better. Better machines meant less downtime. Better communication meant more efficiency.
Oh, wow. So it spread to everything.
Yes, that one routine created a ripple effect that transformed the whole company and eventually boosted profits by billions. Small 1% marginal gains really compound over time.
That is incredible. Okay, so we know the 3 parts of a habit: cue, routine, reward. But how do we make sure these new good habits actually stick permanently?
Right, because we all fall off the wagon sometimes.
Exactly. We change a habit for a week and then go right back to the old pattern.
Well, to make it permanent, we have to look at the 3 layers of change. Think of it like an onion.
Okay, and then
The outermost layer is outcomes. This is what you get, like losing weight or passing a test. The middle layer is processes. This is what you do, like going to the gym.
what you get and what you do.
Yeah.
So what is the core?
The deepest core layer is your identity. This is what you fundamentally believe about yourself. True behavior change is identity change.
I see. It's kind of like if you only focus on the outcome, it is like downloading a new app onto your phone.
Oh, I like that analogy.
You have a new tool, but the phone itself hasn't changed. But changing your identity is like upgrading your entire operating system. Everything runs differently after that.
Upgrading the operating system is exactly it. You shouldn't say, I want to read a book. That is an outcome. You should say, I am the type of person who reads every day. That is an identity.
But how do I prove that identity to myself? My brain isn't just going to believe me if I say I'm a reader now.
No, it demands proof. And you provide that proof through small, consistent wins. Every time you read just one paragraph, you cast a vote for the type of person you want to become.
You cast a vote. I like that.
Yes. But we also have to protect this new identity from the restraint bias we discussed earlier.
Right, because my tired, hot state self is still going to be weak.
Exactly. So you must proactively design your environment. Behavioral economists call this a Ulysses contract. It is a pre-commitment.
Ulysses contract.
Yes. You must make the good habit the path of least resistance and add high friction or difficulty to the bad habits.
Like moving the social media app completely off your home screen.
Exactly. Or, if you want to save money, setting up automated savings before you even see your paycheck. You don't use willpower, it just happens automatically in the background.
Or turning off your phone and putting it in your backpack before you even walk into the office.
Yes, you are designing the environment so you don't even need self-control.
Okay, let's bring all of this together. Let's apply identity, environmental design, and habit loops to a really specific practical scenario for the listener.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Let's say we have a student listening right now. They are preparing for an English listening test, and they want to build small, effective study habits without burning out. What is the plan for them?
The very first step is to use a formula called implementation intentions. This creates a clear plan.
Implementation intentions.
So formula is, I will do this behavior at this time in this location.
Okay, so instead of just saying, I will study more.
Right, because the brain doesn't know what more means.
Right.
Instead, you say, I will study English for 20 minutes at 6 in the evening in my bedroom.
That is so much clearer. But getting started is usually the hardest part, isn't it? The friction is highest right before we begin.
It really is. So to overcome that, we use a technique called habit stacking. You build a new habit by stacking it on top of a starting level or a baseline routine that you already do automatically.
Baseline routine.
Yes, we use the tiny habits template. The formula is, after I do an anchor moment, I will do a tiny behavior. Then I celebrate.
After I do an anchor moment, I will do a tiny behavior. Then I celebrate. What does that look like in practice?
So an anchor is something guaranteed to happen. Let's say after I sit down on the train, that is the anchor.
Right.
I will launch my meditation app. That is the tiny behavior.
Notice you didn't say, I will meditate for an hour. Just launch the app.
Exactly. The behavior must be tiny to reduce the difficulty that slows you down. Here's another one. After I pack my work bag, I will tidy my workspace for 5 minutes.
Okay, let me try one. After I get home and pour my tea, which is my guaranteed anchor, I will sit on my study pillow and just open my English book.
That is a perfect habit stack. Just opening the book starts the engine. Now, we arrive at the most vital component, the part everyone skips.
The celebration part.
Yes. Then I celebrate.
I have to admit, celebrating just opening a textbook does feel a little silly.
It feels incredibly awkward at first, but neurologically, it is the most important step.
Because of the reward part of the habit loop.
Exactly. The basal ganglia needs a positive feeling to wire the new habit into the brain. When you do a small physical or mental celebration like smiling or taking a deep breath or literally just telling yourself, good job.
You are artificially creating the reward.
You are. You are telling your brain, hey, this tiny action was a success. Let's do it again tomorrow. Without that positive feeling, the brain has no incentive to remember it.
So start incredibly small, be patient, and celebrate aggressively.
Yes, because replacing bad habits takes time.
Well, we have covered some truly incredible ground today.
We really have.
We learned that relying on willpower is a trap, thanks to the restraint bias. We practiced simplifying our vocabulary. We broke down the habit loop using the 3-part method of cue, routine, and reward.
And we learned how to stack tiny habits to change our core identity.
Exactly. So I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought to ponder as you go about the rest of your day.
Oh, I love these. Let's hear it.
If our lives are truly just the sum of our repeated automatic actions,
Right.
and if our identity is shaped by the tiny things we do every day, who are you choosing to become tomorrow morning, the exact moment your alarm goes off?
That is a powerful thought. That is the ultimate question we all have to answer.
It really is. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden mechanics of human behavior.
It was a pleasure.
We really appreciate you taking the time to explore these concepts with us. Keep casting those votes for your identity. Until next time.